living off of selling his name to board games or stakes or buildings or failed casinos or books or anything, right? Like, he sells a name, he sells a brand. And so if we all talk about it, just like Kardashian, it's like, kind of, not to be Ariana here, but we're doing him a service. And if your first question and everyone's lead-off story on tonight's evening news is about Donald Trump, as it has been for 7 days, then he's done his job. And I'm not an advocate for it, but if you look behind the curtain a little bit, you'll realize that's what he wants. And so in some small capacity, us all having to answer a question about Donald Trump is Donald Trump's hope and dream.
Yep.
You're probably right. He certainly knows how to make a scene. I think specifically as it relates to millennials, and look, this is human nature. People in politics have an us versus them attitude. I think what a lot of people are reacting to with Trump's original comments about immigration, especially if you're conservative, have concerns about border security, as do I just think you should not talk about people that way, that they were reacting to, well, we're on this side, and these Mexicans, whether he called them rapists or have, are on the other side. I don't know that many millennials are there, and you saw this in other cases, like the situation in Baltimore with the Freddie Gray situation, where I know a lot of my young libertarian friends were wondering, if the police were up to no good, and a lot of my older conservative friends totally took the side of the police. I think that's a divide that, is different for millennials than it is for a lot of older conservatives and maybe liberals. I don't know. Olivia, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, and so I think the RNC can try and distance itself from Trump as much as they want by saying that there are a ton of other candidates. But at the end of the day, this is a candidate that was birthed and nurtured by the Republican Party. And so I think his message, I think his message is something that they're going to have is something that they're going to have to contend with. And I think it's just poisonous if they want to get the millennial vote, because I don't think millennials believe what he believes.
I think the most important nugget that you touched on, Jack, and that Olivia even mentioned, and I think that's probably where this conversation should sort of head toward, is the fact that Trump, sure, he's made a lot of statements, a lot of comments, but one of the biggest things that have attracted people to him, voters to him, is that he's an anti-establishment candidate. And when we talk about millennial voters and how they view political parties today, it's with distrust. And they don't necessarily see themselves as a part of the so-called establishment. In fact, there's a lack of confidence and faith in our institutions. I'm talking about big business, I'm talking about labor, I'm talking about media, I'm talking about Congress among millennial voters. And Pew polls have demonstrated this, or they've showed these sorts of results. But what does that mean for 2016 and where we're headed in the future? I think it means that you're going to see millennials start to create their own institutions, whether it's media and institutions like Rare or Snapchat, using these new tools to increase civic participation, democratize access to information, whether it's consider third-party candidates or anti-establishment candidates. I think that millennial voters are sort of sick of the way that old things were working and want to try something new. And Trump, for better or for worse, I'll leave that up to you all, represents something that's different.
I mean, you are the RNC, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't understand this taste for something new and bombastic and original after the deeply interesting, fascinating, colorful, unscripted candidacies of John McCain and Mitt Romney. Sorry. I guess the point is that with this party, and when you talk to people who work for Donald Trump and people who are Trump supporters, you see a various subsection of the party that feels like their opinions haven't been versed vocally, loudly, bombastically enough in the last 2 cycles. And so there is a subsection there that Trump could absolutely break away. And more fascinatingly enough, I just got back from Iowa last weekend, when you talk to Trump people on the ground, the person of which I can't say, but he worked for Donald Trump in the state of Iowa, he says this: Donald Trump is less crazy and more rich than Ross Perot.
That's a speech.
And this is a close confidant that I've known for a very long time, who's been around the Iowa political circles for a very long period of time. And that's kind of the thought process here. So if you're thinking about Donald Trump and what the long game is, third party, man, I don't know. It's going to be interesting.
Well, if I brought this up, I certainly don't want to talk